Okay, everybody. Today we're talked in class about continuing in the trophy project, and so I wanted to show a couple more things today. I'm going to break this up into two tutorials. First one we're going to talk about is called the sweeps Nurbs, and so far what I have here with this shiny trophy chalice is, if you look over here, I have my cup, which I've made just by simply creating a spline and using the lathe Nurbs to create the form of that. And then what I want to do next is create the handles. So let's go into Cinema and talk about that. Alright, so essentially what I want to make is a curving cylindrical form that starts out a little bit thick and then goes much thinner as it goes down to the bottom. So to do this, I'm just going to open up a new window here. The first thing I want to do is I want to draw a spline on the top view. So just go to the top view, okay, open that up. And what I typically like to do when I'm working with sweeps Nurbs is draw from the top, and in most cases working with splines I like to use the linear tool, and then I'll make it curvilinear after that. So and try to think about using as few points as possible. To make these curves, we want them to be really fluid. So as few curves as possible. So I'm just going to start with one here, one here, one here, here, here. It's basically the shape that I want. Now, of course, I don't want it to be really geometric like this. But what you can do with splines is in the attribute manager, you can change the type of spline. So this is linear. And if I change this to Bezier, then it's going to be much more curvilinear. It automatically throws those curves in. So if you select the move tool, you can change, by grabbing these little handlebars, you can change the curve, to better fit the sort of form that you want. So I'm just going to take this one and move it out a little bit. I'm going to take this one, get it to be a little more curvilinear that way, and actually I'm going to move this one up a little bit more, kind of out a little bit more. So that looks pretty good. I mean, that'll work as a handle. The last thing I'm going to do, just to give myself a little bit more ease as as I'm moving this later on, I'm just going to quickly rotate this, imagining the shape of my piece as I'm going along through. We'll get to that in a little bit. Anyway, okay, so now I have a spline. The next thing I'm going to do is go to perspective mode. And in this mode, then make sure you shift to perspective. I'm going to bring in a circle. This is a closed spline, right? We've drawn a path, and then we're bringing in a closed spline. What's going to happen is when we use the sweeps Nurbs, it's going to take this circle and extrude it along the path of that spline that you've made. Now this circle is much too big, so I'm going to shrink this down. You're probably working in centimeters, so just shrink it down to a much smaller radius. Make it like 6. That's fine. And sorry for all the throat clearing here. So anyway, I have a smaller circle. I have the spline, and now I need my sweeps Nurbs. So notice the sweeps Nurbs looks like a curving path, and then a circular form that's going to extrude along that path. So that's the one that you need. Let's see. First, drop in the path. All right. Then drop in the circle, and along that path, we've extruded that circular form. Alright, so that's the basic start of it, and it looks pretty good. I'm going to make my radius maybe twice what I have here. I'm going to change it to 12. That looks pretty good. So the first thing is what I want to do is make the transition from large end to small end. This is the start, this is the end. Okay, so if we click on the sweeps Nurbs, you'll notice that you have something called end scale. And so if I want this to shrink down, I could change the proportion of what the scale will be at the end. In this case, I want it to be half of what the beginning one is, change it to 50%, and now I have slowly curving down to a smaller formation, which is perfect. Now I've noticed a little weird bump here that I don't quite like so much, so at any time if you want to edit, if you don't make this editable, but if you want to change the spline or the circle, you can always click the sweeps Nurbs off. Just click on this check right here, and then select which one you want to manipulate. The spline, now if you want to use the spline, you have to click on the points tool. Alright, and in this case, I'm going to click the move tool here, and I'm just going to move this a little bit to change that proportion. I think that'll be a little bit better. I might even sort of bring this a bigger curve. There we go. And then click the check back on and you can see what kind of progress you've made. So still a little bumpy, not too bad. I might play with this a little bit more off camera, but that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I have the curve that I want after I've made my adjustments. I also want to take these ends and make them a bit more rounded. So remember, with the extrude NURBS and also with the sweep NURBS, you have what are called caps. Click on caps. Let's add a fillet cap, or fillet, however you like to say, and of course we want to have more than one step. In this case, I'm going to choose 5 steps, and I know my radius is 12, so I'm going to make the radius close to that. I'm going to make this 11. Notice that it pops it out really fat. That's one thing that I don't really want to do for this. I want to constrain the proportion. And if you constrain it, notice that instead of like making it bulge out, it's going to make this end more rounded. Okay, so constrain, and then the end radius as well. Lay cap, 5 steps. End radius is 1, so 1 point. So let's do 1.8. A little bit smaller radius there. Actually, this should be bigger. Maybe it's going to be 11 as well. All right, that's pretty good. So now I have those 2 curves completed, rounded into the form. And then all I've done is simply, label this handle, copy it, click on Window, go to where you're working, in this case the trophy cup, and you can paste it in, rotate it, align it to your scene however you want it, and of course copy and paste and add to the other side, and there you go. You have handles that you can add. Now any sort of shape that you want to extrude along a path, you can use the sweeps NURBS. So remember, you can draw a shape as long as you close the spline. You can use any of these end sides, circle, star, any of these sort of closed forms you could extrude along a curving path or a straight path, or however you like to choose, but basically a path of some sort using a spline. Okay, very good.